Hey Internet, Harris here. In 2025, an iPad is an iPad no matter how small. No, that's my intro for the iPad mini review. In 2025, an iPad is an iPad. That's it. They all now have the same modern design language, USB-C, Apple Pencil support, and really capable software. There's no core features that are really present in one that's missing in another. Just to kind of flex and prove this point, right now on this iPad Air M3, I am viewing my camera feed from the Lumix app for my Panasonic camera. I'm viewing the notes that I'm using for this video. I'm also recording the audio from this microphone from USB-C while screen recording. All of that at the same time. The iPad can do so much, but the thing is, you can do this from the most expensive iPad, you can do this from the least expensive iPad, you can do it from the iPad mini, you can do it from your grandma's iPad. Possibly. So, why would someone want to get the mid-range, the middle sibling iPad in 2025? I'm not sure, and that's kind of my conclusion of this video. I'm not sure. So let's go ahead and talk about the iPad Air M3 from the perspective of someone who is a big tablet and e-reader user, and a portion of this video is brought to you by Moft and their Epic Dynamic Folio case. More on that later. So I actually didn't watch the keynote this year from Apple for this M3 iPad Air, but I went ahead and ordered it as I normally do for the purposes of testing it out and reviewing it. So I did pay for this with my own money. And naturally, when I got it, I was curious what the new features were. So the first thing I noticed is that there is the camera now in the horizontal position, which makes a lot more sense for Zoom calls and for FaceTime calls and using this iPad more like a computer with a folio or keyboard case. Oh, but the previous iPad Air also had this, and the budget iPad has had this for 2 generations now? Okay, well, it now supports Apple Pencil Pro. Oh, Apple Pencil Pro isn't actually that big of a difference from the regular Apple Pencil, and the previous iPad Air supported it. Okay, so that's not new either. Oh, but it does support Apple Intelligence. Oh, but that's not actually that intelligent. And the previous iPad Air supports that, and the previous iPad Air supports that. Okay, so what is exactly new about this device? M3. That's it. All right, so let's talk about performance. Everyone knows the iPad is overkill. For 90, maybe 95% of users, if you're just web browsing and watching YouTube and maybe playing some games and doing email and FaceTime and typing some papers, writing your notes app, stuff like this, you're not even gonna be able to touch M3 or M2 and maybe not even M1. Heck, for 2 years, I actually edited 4K video for this very channel off an M1 MacBook Air with 8 gigabytes of RAM, and it did okay. And if anything, this iPad actually feels a bit choppy. At least I'm coming from the iPad Pro, which if you're watching this video, you probably aren't coming from an iPad Pro or an iPad with 120 hertz ProMotion refresh rate. So the ProMotion displays on the iPads and even the iPhones just make everything silky smooth when you're scrolling. And going back to this iPad felt choppy. You notice twice as much movement essentially when you're scrolling, and it feels choppy and slower. And the whole time I've been using this, I've been experiencing that and I haven't liked it. And it's very similar to the experience that I would get with the budget iPad 11th gen. Now, what's funny is that this technology came out in 2017 with the iPad Pro 10.5, which is a device that you can now buy for like $90.
But our biggest breakthrough is a feature we call ProMotion. Now, typically, up until today, mobile displays have refreshed at 60 hertz, means they update their content 60 times every second. Well, on the new iPad Pro, we've doubled that maximum refresh rate to an incredible 120 hertz. All of your motion content on your screen is going to be smoother, crisper, more responsive.
Now, in past years, jumping from an iPad Pro with ProMotion to an iPad without it wasn't a big deal, but I think the iPhone 16 Pro has actually spoiled me. I was previously using an iPhone 13 mini, and now this is the first time I've used a ProMotion iPhone with a 120 hertz refresh rate display. So I think if you're using the 13, 14, 15, or 16 Pro, not the regular, but the Pro or the Pro Max versions, you might notice the refresh rate on this iPad actually being pretty choppy, which gives me another reason to think just save the money and go for the cheaper iPad or an older generation iPad or an older generation iPad Pro with ProMotion display. It's not a huge deal, but I think now that I've used a ProMotion display iPad, which you may or may not have, and the fact that I'm now using a ProMotion display iPhone, I don't really want to pay $600 for a display that doesn't have that silky smooth ProMotion refresh rate. That's just my thought. I'd be curious what other people who are in this kind of situation think. Okay, so that's my thoughts on performance. But one of the reasons people love the iPad is because it's so versatile. You can obviously use it as a tremendous standalone device for writing papers, for drawing, for animating, for editing some video, for whatever you want. You can also use it in conjunction with a computer. It's super handy sidekick to have the secondary display go to your iPad. That's really nice. But either ways, you're going to want accessories that actually complement and supplement this versatility. And without question, this Moft Dynamic Folio case that I can't fully show you because, again, I'm recording the audio into this iPad is the lightest and thinnest way to do that with seriously zero compromises. So this looks and feels like a standard folio case, just thinner and lighter than most, but then it gives you 23 different stand options because of the origami folding design. That's amazing. It snaps to your iPad magnetically, like you might expect, and then the magic can happen. If you want an elevated design for watching content on a video call, you got it. If you want something a little closer to the desk and optimized for Apple Pencil, boom, just flip that over. Want it to rest securely on your leg? Just lift it up and set it down. Want your iPhone to have some of the fun? Dual screen mode gives you room to securely mount your phone for referencing, calling, or watching something from your phone while using your iPad. And you want to use it vertically? Of course, there's two options for that as well. And the thing that most other cases neglect, you actually can get an Apple Pencil attachment that magnetically snaps in and lets your iPad stay secure. Otherwise, you will lose it in a bag if you get an Apple Pencil. So get that attachment, huge feature. So if you're interested in getting this Moft Dynamic Folio case, which again, I seriously think there are zero compromises to it, I'll leave a link down in the description. You can check it out. Thanks, Moft, for sponsoring this segment of this episode. Okay, so I guess technically one of the other changes to the iPad this year is the new keyboard, which is great. They made it a little bit cheaper. Thank you, Apple. And they added the function row like they did with the iPad Pro keyboard, which I love to see, and made the trackpad ever so slightly bigger. Great, really solid keyboard. If you're going to be doing a lot of typing, it makes sense to get this. Now, I genuinely typically do keep my iPad in a folio. I'm not just saying that because Moff sponsored me, but then I'll use this iPad keyboard folio whenever I want to do some typing, and it works great for that. But this also supports, I believe, the last 3 generations of iPad Airs. So if you opt for a different generation iPad Air, you can still take advantage of this new case, which is really nice. I'm glad Apple lowered the price. Okay, now in terms of pencils and writing experience, it's going to be identical to previous generations of the iPad Air. Now, the advantage that this does have over the cheaper iPad is that this does have a laminated display, which actually is really nice for taking notes and writing. Basically, that just means that there isn't a gap between the glass and the display panel underneath. So there isn't almost like this little visual echo or hollow effect, which is nice. But you're paying, extra for that. And it doesn't have, like I mentioned, the 120 hertz refresh rate. So it's not going to be a silky smooth experience like you can get with a more expensive iPad or even, really a less expensive iPad if you just go for an older iPad Pro. And yes, you can get the Apple Pencil Pro, which is a fantastic stylus. In my actual practical experience, I don't use it all that differently than the Apple Pencil second generation, the non-pro version. And really, you can spend $25 on a stylus and get a really solid writing experience. You don't have to spend the $100 from Apple. You can also get the Logitech Crayon. There's lots of options for stylus writing on the iPad, and they're all fantastic. Like writing on an iPad is wonderful. Notability, Good Notes, Apple Notes, and now iOS even has some handwriting cleaning up features and transcribing things. Like Notes is the best it's ever been on an iPad. Notability and Good Notes are amazing, and the writing experience on any iPad is amazing. This iPad is no different whatsoever, no better, no worse. And this is one of my favorite third-party stylus options. It's something like $20, $25, and it does actually fit in the same pencil holder with the Moft case. So I'll leave this linked down in the description if you want to check this out. So yeah, at the end of the day, this iPad Air M3 is fantastic. If you're looking to spend $600 on a new iPad, you can do that and you'd be happy with this. However, if you're frugal minded like myself and you're kind of looking for a good deal, I'd probably recommend looking at an older iPad Pro that you can get for cheaper. Or if you're just trying to save money, maybe go for the iPad 11th gen. You can get the cheaper tablet with the cheaper accessories, with a cheaper stylus, and just save hundreds and hundreds of dollars. This iPad Air is in a weird middle ground. Apple hasn't changed a lot about it. An iPad is an iPad, and I just don't think this is the best value when fundamentally not a lot has changed. Apple Intelligence exists on other iPad Airs and isn't that amazing of an addition anyway. So it's a good device. If you just want to buy something reliable without spending $1,000 for the iPad Pro, go for it. But if you're trying to find a better deal, I'd recommend an older iPad Air with an M series processor or an older iPad Pro. Save money, get better features, or just go all the way down, save a lot of money with the budget iPad. Let me know your thoughts. If you disagree, let me know. And make sure to check out the Moft folio case linked in the description. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.